In the last 48 hours, Washington didn't just investigate Minnesota. They took complete control of it. Money frozen, agents deployed, orders getting triggered. This is no longer a scandal. This quite literally is a crime scene. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Update. To date, the Department of Justice has charged 98 total defendants in several Medicaid fraud and related case programs. 64 were convicted, and 85 of the 98 charged were of Somali descent. The DOJ has also issued over 1,700 subpoenas, executed over 130 search warrants, and they have now added more attorneys to their office there to absorb the case flow. DHS is on the ground going door to door conducting large-scale criminal and HSI investigations. They have also sent approximately 2,000 agents to Minneapolis to assist with law enforcement and immigration enforcement. As I said, Secretary Noem was on the ground yesterday. The Department of Health and Human Services has also begun requiring a justification and photo evidence for all child care related payments nationwide, and they required Minnesota to conduct a full audit of all child care centers. They also froze $185 million in funding to Minnesota. And Dr. Oz, who was just here, also notified Governor Walz they're going to begin auditing Medicaid recipients and deferring payments on claims based on waste, fraud, and abuse. The Department of Labor is also conducting a targeted review of Minnesota's unemployment program. Department of Agriculture requiring Minnesota to conduct recertification for SNAP recipients, and HUD has launched investigations into the public housing. SBA has also suspended nearly 7,000 borrowers amid suspected fraudulent activity. So, with all of that, rest assured, this is an all-hands-on-deck effort from the entire administration to get to the bottom of this and to ensure that the ripping off of taxpayers in the state of Minnesota, and it won't just be Minnesota, it'll be any state across this country where fraud has taken place, and we are protecting law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens.
This administration is not playing, and I should have sent them in the comments. This is what I voted for. Definitely, man. This is not spin. This isn't spin. This is how the federal government talks when it's already past that warning phase. I mean, they well past that, man. Over with. Subpoenas, search warrants, agents on the ground, frozen money. That's not politics. That's procedure. That's Washington saying, you know, hey, look, we're here now. We got this. And this were just about what already happened. It would stop here. It would. But that's not what's going on.
That, though, you guys, and says, I could have won if I would have just ran, but says he just wants to focus on right now. So the developments come as the Justice Department signals more indictments are coming. Nearly 100 people have been charged with felony fraud-related crimes just since 2022, and nearly every single one is Somali. So when people ask, why are you talking about the Somali community, they're being targeted, it's just the numbers. It's just the facts there. And at least $9 billion in fraud in this state and counting. Back out here live, we talk about that.
Boom. I mean, it's just the facts. That's what we centered on here. I want to read the caption that Benny Johnson wrote. The DOJ is signaling many more fraud indictments are coming soon in Minnesota. 98 have been charged. 85 have been Somalis. $9 billion in fraud discovered. Tim Walz didn't drop out over what's been found. He dropped out over what's coming. Now, that's the line. For real. You know, that sentence should make anyone pause right there. Politicians don't quit when a pressure eases, right? They quit when they see the next chapter coming. That wasn't a retreat. That was someone basically reading the weather. And once Washington sees this storm, they didn't wait around.
At CMS and HHS, we're increasingly worried about the deep rot within Minnesota's Medicaid and social services system, which are supposed to protect the most vulnerable Americans. The more we uncover, the more it becomes clear it's much worse than we were led to believe by state government officials. We had previously learned that illegal immigrants were still getting care within allegedly state-only Medicaid programs that were actually using federal taxpayer funds. And because of that, we already withheld $1.3 billion from California, Illinois, and yes, Minnesota, which always seems to show up on the list of states with the worst fraud, waste, and abuse. But this is only the tip of the iceberg for Minnesota. We have an unfortunate announcement for the Walz administration. They have to admit they were warned. Last month, we instructed the Walz administration to produce a corrective action plan by the end of the year, which we received late New Year's Eve. and found deeply insufficient. We don't want to hear, for example, that your state law doesn't allow you to protect federal taxpayers from Somali fraud. And we want a sense of urgency to fix this, as well as clear milestones to hold Minnesota accountable on progress. Enough is enough. I just notified Governor Walz we will begin auditing Medicaid receipts and defer paying on claims based on fraud, waste, and abuse. Until we can verify what is legitimate, we're going to defer payments for the 14 programs that the state itself identified as rife with fraud. That figure could be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. If the state cannot get a handle on this fraud, as we find more, we intend to withhold more payments moving forward until the state cleans up its act. This ensures that Minnesotans who are truly in need and eligible for benefits can access Medicaid services, but the state's going to be forced to clean up its act and stop wasting taxpayer dollars. The state mismanaged its program, and federal taxpayers should not be held liable. We should note that Governor Walz has a rainy day fund with plenty of money to cover any real shortfalls in the unlikely event these actions affect beneficiaries directly. This, my friends, is about holding Governor Walz accountable and making him take the steps he should have taken years ago. This is just the beginning. While there are 14 Medicaid programs that we know are high risk, we suspect from our team on the ground that there's a long road ahead to clean up the fraud. We want the people of Minnesota to know that this hardship was caused by a complete abdication of duties by the Walz administration, which your state leaders need to own and address immediately. Our duty is to provide the highest quality health care for the most vulnerable Americans, so we can't allow further theft of federal taxpayer money from 49 states to underwrite fraud in Minnesota. We'll have more to say in the weeks ahead.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I share the same sentiment in the comments section again. Jail time soon. Eric Daw is what I usually call him. He wrote, I want an indictment. Do Keith Ellison too. Keep that name in mind. This is the moment that changed everything, y'all. When the federal government freezes payments, they're saying one thing. We don't trust your numbers anymore. That's not help. That's Washington taking the keys and saying, look, we'll handle this. All right. So the real question becomes, how did it even get this far in the first place?
Now they're looking at the state's attorney general, Keith Ellison. Why? Because the state's top cop here in Minnesota was caught in an audio recording behind closed doors, meeting with a group of soon-to-be convicted Somali fraudsters. They were asking the attorney general for help to get more funding. Listen to this.
The only way we can protect what we have is by inserting ourselves into the political arena, putting our votes where it needs to be, but most importantly, putting our dollars in the right place and supporting candidates that will fight to protect our interests.
That's right.
You can only protect our interests when we have your back, and you don't have to worry about who's behind you.
And also this group was talking about, as you heard there, supporting his campaign. So Keith Ellison is pushing back on this. He said that he takes fraud seriously. He shared in an op-ed writing this: I took a meeting in good faith with people I didn't know, and some turned out to have done some bad things. I did nothing for them, and I took nothing from them. But some of those now convicted Somali fraudsters did donate money to Ellison's campaign, according to documents obtained by the Center for the American Experiment.
What? Now, this clip matters. Not because it proves guilt, but because it explains protection. When oversight gets political, enforcement slows down. And when enforcement slows down, problems grow quietly. Which is why accountability often shows up a little too late.
Our level set, because it seems like we want to continue to, especially as we just heard those particular articles entered into the record, we want to continue to just make it seem as if you are Somali, then somehow you are a fraudster. And this administration has decided that it wants a target on their backs. And so when my colleague, Ms. Randall, decided that she wanted to talk about the threats that are being made towards various Somali people, the reason she brought it up is because this particular side of the aisle has a tendency of, if one person does something bad, especially if they are an immigrant, then we are going to cast aside that entire community. So I wanted to level set, and I appreciate your honesty, because that's something that we very rarely get from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. In fact, if we want to talk about fraud, I got a lot of fraud that we're going to talk about, because we're going to get into this, but I am very curious to hear, let me ask you, Mr. Ballou, are you aware of allegations that $50,000 in taxpayer dollars have been given to someone that is currently sitting in this administration by the name of Tom Homan? Are you aware? Okay, that's a yes.
I am.
Okay. And last I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong if you have different information, but he was given that $50,000 in exchange for being able to provide contracts and kickbacks to people as soon as Trump was going to get into office. The DOJ was actually investigating this, but as soon as Trump got into office, last I checked, he actually said, go ahead and throw away that case.
So it was a Department of Justice investigation, and he accepted the money from an undercover FBI agent in cash.
Are you aware as to whether or not we ever got that $50,000 back?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Are you aware as to whether or not this committee has decided to investigate that?
I'm not.
Are you aware as to whether or not any committee in Congress has decided to investigate the fact that we know that he took $50,000 from an undercover officer, and yet we still don't have that money, nor does he have any charges?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get into it. We're living through the most corrupt presidential administration in American history, a $300 million ballroom, a $230 million payout from the Department of Justice because the president got his feelings hurt because he had to be investigated for being a criminal. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent at Trump-owned properties around the country, Trump-branded wine being sold at the Coast Guard exchanges, American taxpayer dollars being spent on DHS propaganda ads on Truth Social, awarding federal contracts to corporations in exchange for campaign contributions. Kash Patel flew his girlfriend around the country on a multi-million-dollar jet that taxpayers paid for. Kristi Noem gave companies she's affiliated with hundreds of millions of tax dollars, then went out and spent another $200 million on 2 private jets for her travel. For 12 months, this administration has been taking billions of taxpayer dollars from American people and have been giving it away to their own companies in the form of tax cuts, government contracts, or other government funded subsidies. So Congress has a role in getting rid of fraud, I will admit that, in any federally funded government program. However, I think the fraud that the American people are concerned about is that the Republicans are taking away Americans' health care so that ultra billionaires can get more tax cuts. The real fraud is the dehumanization and demonization of the working class Americans and immigrants to distract folks away from corporate socialism that's happening because of the Republicans. So this is truly the definition of throwing away the baby with the bathwater. The Republican philosophy is that if the cost of living for the average American increases, they're on their own. But if the cost of doing business increases for the wealthiest people on earth, well, then it's the government job to bail them out. But I want to get to my last question because, Mr. Ballou, I got to give you a chance. He's been issuing pardons for numerous people who have defrauded the American people. And Republicans on this committee, yeah, just as quiet as the room just got, right? So, Mr. Ballou, talk to me about how the Trump administration has welcomed fraud across government by purging DOJ attorneys and shuttering ethics office across the federal government.
Well, one of the things that's been a common theme in this discussion so far is potential government employee involvement in some of these schemes. That hasn't been proven yet, but it does seem to be alleged. The concern that I have is the office that would prosecute that in the Department of Justice, the Public Integrity Section, has been largely defunded and decimated.
Thank you so much. And my time has expired, but I do have some UCs, Mr. Chairman.
You want to do them now?
I do.
Okay.
Somebody
the first
wrote,
one.
Wait until they investigate you, Miss Crockett. Notice what didn't happen here. No challenge to the fraud, no argument against the numbers, just a pivot. That's what deflection looks like to me. I don't know about you. Y'all let me know in the comments. Not denial, just distraction. But distractions don't survive data.
Oh, yeah. The Somalians have it figured out in Columbus. I went to the Walmart on Georgesville to see if I could see people filling their carts or just kind of see what I could see. It's not the way they do it. They've got it figured out way better than that. Every single Somali restaurant has a grocery store right next door or within eyeshot of the restaurant. The specific one I went into today had it attached to the restaurant. And wow, what an adventure that was. Stay tuned for more on that. Anyways, the grocery store and the restaurant were the same building. So they don't have to go to a Walmart or a Sam's Club or a Costco necessarily. They can just order everything they need to their grocery store that's right next to or attached to the restaurant that they also own and never have to fill a single cart. And I guarantee you, if you looked at the records of those grocery stores, they lose tons of money every year, and it's probably used as a tax write-off because those groceries are being funneled into those restaurants, with a daycare center on the opposite side. And that's the common trend you'll see. There's restaurants, grocery stores, and daycare centers, and also home health care businesses. I can't forget the home health care businesses. Nakia was absolutely right. And the reason for the daycare centers I found out while I was at Walmart. 3/4 of the workers I saw working in Walmart, especially the cashiers, were Somali women. You got to figure if you have 2 or 3 wives that you don't have to claim, these women can go work at Walmart full time for $15 an hour and still qualify for food stamps as long as they have a couple kids, which you can guarantee you they at least have 2 kids. Hell, they average 7. Or same story as working as a home health care aide. They have most definitely figured out the system and how to take advantage of it. And Columbus doesn't break down its numbers like Minnesota, but if anything like the 88% of the Somali community is on social services in Columbus, I can only imagine how deep the fraud is. So I'm changing tactics and going back up Monday, and I have a couple ideas to see if I can't sniff a few things out. Thanks for tuning in. Keep it icy.
This is where people misunderstand the story. Minnesota isn't unique. Minnesota is just the first place Washington stopped ignoring right now. Same patterns, rather, same programs, different zip code. And eventually someone asked the question nobody wants to answer.
Mr. Balu, again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somali.
Nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here.
Go for
it. Again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again.
No shouting, no insults, just numbers and silence. When a room goes quiet, that usually means the truth landed. Obviously, he wouldn't give him a chance to speak, but I mean, he ain't had nothing to say. So understand this clearly. Washington didn't overreact. If you ask me, they just responded. When he freezes, order starts, and agents arrive. Simple. It's not politics, right? That's consequences. Minnesota didn't become a federal crime scene overnight. It happened slowly. You know, when oversight stopped and accountability got replaced with the good old excuses, That's when it happened. And if you think, this can't happen where you live, that's exactly how it starts. Now, if you made it to the end of the video, I want you to write crime scene tape. That way I know who really stayed to the end. Y'all be safe. Go check on a friend today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.